What is happening, people? Welcome back. It's Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa, third round of the FA Cup. It's been doom and gloom for Spurs recently. Can this be a distraction, an opportunity to boost confidence and bring fans and players together and get them behind Thomas Frank maybe in the FA Cup? It's going to be a tough game, though, against the high-flying Aston Villa. Here's your opposition preview. I'm joined by Neil from the For Love of Paul McGrath Villa podcast. Neil, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me and talk to people a little bit about you and your podcast.
I'm doing very good. Thanks so much for having me on again, Harry. And I must say, it's a good time to be an Aston Villa fan currently at the moment. There was a time there where we thought we might never not win a game again because we just did nothing but win, but which is completely out of the ordinary for Aston Villa. But all good things come to an end, and that happened at Arsenal recently. But yeah, from where we were after the first 5 games of the season to where we are now is night and day, and it's been a fun ride so far as an Aston Villa fan.
100%. And where can people find your podcast?
Yeah, you find it all over YouTube, any of the podcast platforms as well, and yeah, we do a small bit on Twitter. I'm trying not to do as much on there anymore because as you it's a wild space out there, Twitter currently at the moment, where rationality and where I suppose objective thought go to die currently. But it's still fun. It's still fun to chat to the couple of remaining sane people that are on some of those apps out there.
Absolutely. I could tell you it goes further than the Villa fan base. Let me tell you that. There's some right interesting people on X. Let's just put it that way. But Neil, thank you very much for joining me. Should be a good one. If you're listening on YouTube, please do subscribe. If you're new, if you like this in particular bit of content, drop a like. If you're listening by audio podcast platforms, available on all the major podcast platforms, drop us a follow, 5-star review. Let us know where you're listening from in terms of country, time of day, and how you're feeling right now as a Tottenham fan, as a Villa fan, or whatever club you support. Neil, before we get going, tell people, in terms of you and as an Aston Villa fan, what does Aston Villa mean to you?
Just looking at my background means absolutely everything. I'd have this background if I wasn't doing podcasts and have a YouTube channel. But I think probably the biggest thing for me is that Villa's always been a huge part of my life. I started following Villa when I was 7 years of age, because of Paul McGrath being, for me, the best defender to ever lace up a pair of boots. And, it's kind of carried on from there. Ireland and Villa have always had a big affinity, even from those days where you had Houghton, Townsend, Staunton, McGrath, all those great Irish players that were playing with Villa at the same time. And it was funny, when I picked Aston Villa as my team, it was because of Paul McGrath. And then I kind of almost instantly went, I can't change. And I didn't want to change. And I didn't want to change because not just to be different, but it is nice to kind of pin your colours to the mast. And at that time, Villa had won a League Cup in 94. They won a League Cup in 96. And you kind of go, yeah, if you can win a cup every 2 years, won't this be brilliant? I'll have picked the right team. But I haven't won a cup since 96. And the FA Cup has never really been our fondest competition because we normally draw Manchester United in the third round nearly every second year. There's a hilarious statistic about that if you want to go and look it up. But we've got Premier League opposition this weekend, and I'll be honest, I don't expect it to be easy because I'm not quite sure that Unai Emery will prioritise this game at the weekend. Nothing to do with the opposition, but just because of where we are in the league. Number one, could prioritise Champions League football with our financial woes. And also, I think if he wanted to bring any silverware home, he'd bring home his trophy, which is the Europa League. And I think that's where his mind is going to go. That maybe he's mapped out the year with Europa League games, but I don't think he, and this is hard to say as a fan who wants to win the FA Cup, probably above every other cup because it's the purest club competition in the whole entire world. But I don't think this year it's going to be high up on the Christmas wish list of Unai Emery, just because of the extra games it may or may not bring should you progress into the competition.
Interesting. Of course, you've got to prioritise as well. And, I think Villa, of course, you have a decent squad, but at the same time, it's a lot, isn't it, to juggle, 3 competitions, let's just say. It's a lot to...
We're an Ollie Watkins, the Morgan Rogers injury away from wondering who replaces them, Well, we do have good squad depth, but It's not infinite, or as you guys know, because you've got a ton of players out injured at the moment. You can go on a bad run that can completely and utterly derail months of your season.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I mean, you're right with that in terms of injuries as well. Not just Tottenham, but it goes across the Premier League. A lot of injuries at the moment for teams struggling to deal with. But of course, Tottenham have been arguably, falling foul of that as well. A lot of players out, as you say there. But in terms of, Aston Villa and how they're getting on this season, and you literally are high flying. When I say that in the intro, I mean it. Third in the Premier League, 43 points from 21 games with a positive 9 goal difference. You're only behind Manchester City because of goal difference, and 6 points from league leaders Arsenal. Then the Europa League as well, you sit in third place with 15 points, along with like the other two clubs above you, which just goal difference. You've got a positive 6, whereas above you, you've got positive 8 and positive 10. So, Aston Villa, you're doing a fantastic job this season. So, what have you made of it? Because, as you know, the start wasn't perfect, but really have turned a corner. I think it'd be fair to say, I want to get your thoughts on this. I don't think it's been talked about enough, just how drastically you have turned it around.
I've had a lot of time to stew and kind of marinate in how our season has been, because sometimes you just look at it and you go, there's no point in me analyzing this game. We've won a game of football again. It's bonkers. And we should just sit there and enjoy it. But the joke in and around Aston Villa is that, look, we're only 6 points off top and we gave the whole league a 5-game head start. That's the challenge that Unai Emery likes to have. And obviously that's a joke, because we were a mess at the start of the season. We looked tired. We looked old. We looked like we gotten old overnight. And it was a slog. First couple of games were a slog. You were watching a team and you didn't recognize the team that was there. And then all of a sudden, we get a win, or Matty Cash gets that goal against Sunderland and we draw 1-1. And then next thing, all of a sudden, we win a game, and then we win another game, and then before you know it, you're going, wait a minute, we've won 3 games in a row here. And things seem to be getting back together. And while it wasn't perfect, there was kind of a sense that, are we out of the doldrums of the first 5 games? And then Unai Emery put it pretty succinctly. He said that the off season was tough. It was tough from the point of view of, there was tough decisions that needed to be made. They wanted to bring people in, they couldn't bring them in, and then next thing, all of a sudden, the bills were, well, that's not so much the bills, but figuratively speaking, someone needed to go out to balance the books, and Jacob Ramsey went. Huge favorite within the squad itself, really well liked amongst all the people in the dressing room. And then you had Emi Martinez twerking for Manchester United, ringing up Lisandro Martinez and trying to figure out how he gets his move there. And there was a lot of kind of having to come back and do your penance for him there. And all that those two things kind of, I suppose, they can disrupt a dressing room. And if Villa may not have the best players in the world, we certainly don't. We've got a really together dressing room. And that was pretty much evident, I think you could see at the start of the season. The dressing room is so tight now. It's like players like John McGinn, like Tyrone Mings, like Ezri Konsa, Yuri Tielemans. They're just like they're the glue that kind of keeps this team together. And while Villa went out and they brought in Harvey Elliott, they brought in Jadon Sancho, they've been no entity within this club at all. And then it's funny, then the 2 players that have been absolutely brilliant were 2 players that nobody has talked about, and that's Marco Bizzot, goalkeeper for 2.5 million, and Victor Lindelof, who's turned into prime Maldini all of a sudden since he's came to Aston Villa. He has been absolutely outstanding at left centre half. So the season so far, kind of, it started off with a under that cloud, the transfer window not closing, the uncertainty of Emi Martinez kind of hung over into the year. Almost there's a direct correlation between the transfer window closing and Villa's upturn in fortunes. And I think, in a way, the fact that we were unable to spend as much as we wanted, but still kept on to Emi Martinez, galvanized our group of players. And then obviously you bring in a head like Victor Lindelof, who, to be honest with you, I don't even think I did any podcast on Victor Lindelof coming in, because I was kind of going like, it's Victor Lindelof. And then all of a sudden now I'm like going, Victor Lindelof is out, probably keep Pau Torres out of the team the way he's playing at the moment. I think the what was a perceived negative 10, 12, 15 weeks ago is now our strength. Like the togetherness of that dressing room, the togetherness of the team, and almost like the cult like behavior of the players towards the manager. And the absolute galvanization that they've gotten from this, I think, is a huge strength. And that's all I can really put it down to, is just the team just kind of went, it's us against the world, and just decided to come out all guns blazing. And I don't think there's any other magic outside of that.
Absolutely, and it was interesting as well. You mentioned Victor Lindelof there. He's a player. I agree with you. As an outsider, I looked at him and thought, I don't think that's. I think it's the worst business at the time for Villa, but I looked at that and thought, I don't think that's too ambitious, put it that way. But Neil, do you think that's credit to Unai Emery? And he has a track record, as you know, is getting a lot out of players. Maybe not when they first sign, but eventually, in that second season, for example, gets a lot out of players and maximises their performance. So do you think it's credit to him that Lindelof is now a different player to the player we saw at like Man United?
Absolutely 100%. And this Aston Villa team already have sold players to other teams that have played nowhere near to the level they played for Aston Villa. Like, you see Douglas Luiz hasn't played anywhere near the level he played under Unai Emery. Unfair to say it about Jacob Ramsey, as I say, because he's a favourite of mine, and also he's been injured and so on, and so I don't, and obviously it's early days for him. But John Duran hasn't settled since we've sold him on. Moussa Diaby's out in Saudi. He's playing okay, but for somebody like 23 years of age who was showing great talent in the Premier League, should have excelled in his game, he's been decidedly average since he went out there. So what Unai Emery is if you want to be coached and you think that you are better than I suppose what you've been in the past, you come in. Unai Emery will give you the time of day. Now, obviously, look, there's caveats in that one. I'm sure Jadon Sancho has come here wanting to be coached, and it isn't working out for him so far. Harvey Elliott obviously wanted to come here to be part of Aston Villa. I think Unai Emery realised early days that, look, maybe he's not going to fit into our system here, so a system above all else. And I'm going to, I've made the decision I don't want to spend the 33 million on him, so we're not going to play him and trigger that. So there are obvious caveats to that, and Villa have to be careful, I suppose, in what they do, even in the loan market as well. And if loans aren't working out, I think it's probably best off to kind of just maybe leave them to the periphery and play the players that you have here, because those loan wages and so on will go off the balance sheet at the end of the year. So you don't want to prioritize those over maybe the development of somebody else within the team. And you're seeing that with Emi Buendia at the moment. Unai Emery has brought him back into the team. He's playing really, really good stuff for us this year. He's now become a saleable asset if Villa want to sell him. Whereas if Villa were going to sell him at the end of last year, you're probably talking maybe 10 million. Now he's probably elevated his value again because he's come in, bought into Unai Emery's system and played it again. It sounds very much like I'm talking about some sort of godlike figure, but currently at Aston Villa, it's Unai's plan. And if you buy into it, the proof of the pudding is he will make you a better player, and he will get people talking about you.
100%. Neil, thank you. I don't want to spoil your party or anything. I don't want to do that. But I had this kind of image in my head today that Manchester United, they bring in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on an interim basis. They do it next week, I think. So just there's only one game at the weekend, so they've got a week to do that. I think they're waiting until after the FA Cup. We bring him in interim, end of the year. And I think in the summer, I think the most likely, is that they go and appoint Oliver Glasner. His contract who runs out at Crystal Palace. But are you worried at all about losing Unai Emery? Of course, you have to ask, and you've got a manager doing such a fantastic job. Of course, he has a track record of doing well wherever he goes. But do you also think as well that he'd be better off at somewhere like Villa? Of course, trying to put the bias aside, because there's more expectation, isn't there, almost at Man United? And I don't think that suits him at all.
I don't think it's anything to do with expectations. I'll tell you why Unai Emery wouldn't even pick up the phone to Manchester United currently. And that might, like, United fans are going, go away, it's Man United, we've the Man United way, the Man United DNA, blah, 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 blah. Man United Football Club is nowhere near the entity it was when Sir Alex Ferguson was there, for a multitude of reasons. Vultures have taken over the club and have appointed themselves in positions and all want their say. Unai Emery, the way that Aston Villa have streamlined the organisation specifically for Unai Emery is unique in probably top level football, I would say, at this moment in time. And I'll give you an example. So you see the way that Ruben Amorim and Enzo Maresca have both been sacked, and I think have dealt with it immaturely. They both dealt with their final days immaturely. They both the stuff that was coming out showed a sense of immaturity with them. But what it all highlighted was They got fed up of working with the structure above them that had too many voices coming at them, and they just wanted to coach football teams. At Aston Villa Football Club, Unai Emery sits above Roberto Olabi and Damian Vidigani. Roberto Olabi is our sporting director. Unai Emery in the hierarchy sits above him. He brings those people in. So the amount of power that Unai Emery has it's not absolute. He works collaboratively with them and so on. It seems to everything we've heard is that it was Unai Emery's choice from Monchi, one of his good friends, to move out to another part of V Sports to run other parts of V Sports and vacate his position. And it was Unai Emery's choice to bring in Roberto Olabi once he became available. So there's no puppeteer at the top. Like, obviously the people who are paying the wages have to agree with it, but it's been, the whole thing has been formed around Unai Emery and given Unai Emery the keys to the castle. So much so that Aston Villa bought. Unai Emery owns, and the Emery family, they own a football club in Spain called Real Union in the 3rd division in Spain. Aston Villa have bought into that club and have now brought it in under V Sports. And we regularly send players on loan. Even going down deeper, Lander Emery, up until last year, was our under-21 goalkeeping coach. There was times last year he was on the bench for our senior team. The owners of the club have basically gone, Unai, you want a 15-year career at one club to try and make it into a powerhouse? Tell us what you want, we'll write the checks. That's the way it is for him. If he goes to Manchester United, he would, like, Wilcox in his ear. What's your man's name? Berdera or whatever his name is in his ear. He'll have both the Glazers, both Sir Jim, all in his head. No, not for him. He's a man of simple pleasures. He's a man who doesn't court any of that stuff. He wants to get his tactics book out. He wants to watch. Watch film. He just wants to coach people. And he doesn't want all that noise. So that's why I believe Manchester United ring him. They literally would want to offer him a 30% stake in the club to get him out of there, because I just don't think the setup of the club.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. If Jason Wilcox or whoever it was rang looking for Unai Emery, Jason Wilcox would basically be saying to him, I'm going to have to resign if I appoint you. And nobody's going to do that.
It's interesting you raised that as well, because, I think someone said that to me yesterday as well, and, not the first person, around expectation and, not expectation necessarily, but more, a better way of putting it is like the power, I think, and, how you wouldn't get that at Manchester United, which, sounds strange. You think, oh my goodness, Big Six club. But as you saw with Amrin in the end, he's clearly was frustrated, wasn't he, with something upstairs, and you could tell it'd been building, right? Because he started off by saying a few months ago, I want to be here for 20 years. And then all of a sudden, he had a couple of moments in press conferences. You thought, oh, what's this about? Then he really went for it, didn't he?
Yeah,
after that Leeds game.
Yeah.
It's been bubbling up. So, of course, that's not good. And you don't want that. But no, I just thought I'd ask you about that. Appreciate your honesty. But moving on to the transfer window, currently in the January transfer window, what do Aston Villa need? Because, of course, at the moment, as we speak, at the time of recording, you're in 3 different competitions. And it is a lot to juggle, and quite easily, as if you let one competition slip and it just knocks the confidence of another, and really quickly you can be in a strong position, and then in football things can flip, like you've had the other way around, haven't you, this season? So what do you need in January to give you the best chance of staying where you are in the Premier League and Europa League, and if not, improving it?
We've gotten to where we are in the league so far, essentially without Ollie Watkins. Yes, he's been playing with an injury, but his form has been in and out. And yes, it's picked up recently. Aston Villa need another striker. And for me, I'm not saying we need to go out and spend 50 million on a striker. I would be okay with bringing in a grizzled old veteran on loan for the rest of the season that plays number 9 all the time and is a proper number 9. We have Daniel Malen who comes in there and he plays up top. He's not really that proper number 9. He's good, don't get me wrong. He's scored a good few goals for us this season, and he's great to have. But I can't even think of a striker that would be comparable at the moment, but somebody that we could bring in that could take the load off on Ollie Watkins, for sure, because he's not been firing on all cylinders this year. He's been injured, and he's 30 years of age now, so we do need to manage him very much so. Saying that, Villa have spent 12 million on a 16-year-old striker from Metz yesterday, which literally was like a slap of a fish around everyone's face. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody Like, I'll be honest with you, I do a lot of scouting. I've got scouting qualifications and everything, and I spend most of my spare time on Y Scout. I'd heard of this guy, but I certainly didn't have him up there in the 12 million to Aston Villa bracket. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. If he's a viable entity for Aston Villa for the rest of the season, brilliant. But I don't expect it. The other person that they've brought in is a right winger, and I think we need a right winger to come in as well. They brought in Allison from Grêmio, again, young player, raw young player. Brought him in for 10, I think it was 10 million as well, 10 million pounds. And so he's in and around the club at the moment. He may very well be on the bench at the weekend. Who knows? But I still think Villa will go and will try and explore those markets. If Harvey Elliott leaves, they will explore probably getting another right wing player in on loan. And I definitely think they're going to try and get a striker in on loan this year, a more experienced striker to come in. He's not going to blow anybody's mind, I'd say, with the name players. Like, it's not going to be a Rashford or anything like that. But I think that he wants to solidify in those two areas, because while we do have squad depth, we've got a load of midfielders. We're pretty stacked at right back. We're pretty stacked at left back. And now that we've got Pau and Mings back in defence, we've got four fit centre halves. So it's really the right wing position and the striker position I think the Villa are going to look at. And I would hope that two more players will come in, and one in each of those positions will come in.
Hopefully for your sake that does happen, because it gives you a fighting chance of doing something special this year. Neil, thank you very much. On to Spurs then, and we get closer to moving on to the game this weekend. What have you made of Tottenham this season, and in particular manager Thomas Frank? He's come under a lot of pressure. There's boos every week at the moment, in particular from the away end, and some comments that have been maybe misinterpreted the wrong way, or taken out of context about the fans. And some people look at it and go, it's quite disrespectful. And on top of the playing style, the performances, the results, I do feel he's now lost the majority of Spurs fans. I want to get your thoughts as an outsider on him, and also how you think he's doing this season.
I don't understand why Spurs can't make the leap. I can't understand it. There's no viable reason why Spurs can't be closer. Why they've got this glass ceiling in front of them always, and now that glass ceiling has fallen on top of them, and now like they're struggling mid-table for the last 2 years. I cannot get my head around it. I don't know why. You look at, and I'll answer the question on Thomas Frank in a moment, but you look at the individual brilliant players that you guys have. Mickey van de Ven waltz into most clubs in the Premier League, in world football. Same with Christian Romero. Same with Pedro Porro. Same with, you go down through the team there, and there's quite a lot of good players. Thomas Frank is trying to do a job that Jose Mourinho couldn't do, that Nuno Espirito Santo couldn't do, that essentially every manager since Pochettino has not been able to do. And I can't figure that out. I can't figure it out, because Spurs can spend at will. You guys can buy whatever you want. You buy, like, you don't typically spend 100 million on players. That's fine. Not many clubs do. But if you guys see a player that you want in the 50 million bracket, boom, he's there. Mohamed Kudus, for Dominic Solanke, all very good players. Thomas Frank comes into this environment, and I think what it is I think Spurs fans are like, it needs to be won now. And Thomas Frank is not an it needs to be won now type of manager. It took him a while to, like, Dean Smith did a lot of work at Brentford. He took over then from Dean Smith, but then he had to install everything, and then he had to get the train moving forward again, from where it was. Obviously gets them promoted, comes into the Premier League, and then did good work at Brentford. But did he really ever achieve anything at Brentford other than keeping them in the league and having them punching above their weight? I think that Thomas Frank, like you just can't keep cycling through managers. You really can't. And it's poor at the moment, but the individual players are there. And it's like, it was poor under Mourinho for vast periods. It was poor under Nuno. It was poor under Ange. And it's poor under Thomas Frank. At somewhere along the line, the buck has to stop, and there has to be solidification and growth given. I think that there has to be an opportunity for growth. And 2 years ain't going to cut it. 2.5 years may not cut it. We're lucky. We're blessed, lucky, and completely, utterly hexed that Unai Emery came in, and literally he was appointed on the Thursday, and on the Saturday he was in the dugout against Man United. We beat Man United 3-1. And since then, we've been on a roll. I'm not preaching at anybody here. We've not given managers time before. We just got absolutely poxed that Unai Emery came in and hit the ground running. Like, if you sack Thomas Frank, like, who's going to be the next Spurs manager? Like, this is the thing. And you've had Mourinho, a serial contender. You've had Nuno, who, okay, not having the best of it at the moment, but did stuff with Forest, did stuff with Wolves. I never believed in Ange. I always thought Ange was a bit of a waffler. And this is me, a Celtic fan as well, and seeing all the good work he did at Celtic. So I always believed he was a bit of a blowhard, Ange, and I never thought that his stuff was sustainable. But Thomas Frank may have it. And if it's not Thomas Frank, then who? Do you bring in the next Ruben Amorim? Do you bring in the next Maresca? Do you go for Maresca? Do you want Maresca? Do you want that type of manager? It's so, like, everything is set up at Spurs for success, except for something that nobody knows the answer to. So whether it's Thomas Frank or whether it's anybody else, there's no guarantee of success with it. But there's also all I can guarantee is that if Spurs keep on cycling through managers in 18 months, 2 years, you're probably going to guarantee failure, because the time won't be there and the expectation will be high. And I
totally agree.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, and I don't want it to seem like I'm preaching to Spurs fans. I really don't, because I 100% believe we were a nothing club, really. Don't appoint to Steven Gerrard type anyway, whatever you do. But we cycled through all those people like Dean Smith, fan of the club, brilliant, did great work, got us back up on our feet. Before that, Steve Bruce, Roberto Di Matteo, Remy Gard. Jesus Christ, I get shivers of thinking of Remy Gard's tenure at Aston Villa. Tim Sherwood, Paul Lambert. We went through our fair amount of frogs before we got our prince, and we got really lucky that we had owners that could back up the Brinks truck and give Unai Emery everything that he wanted. I genuinely don't know what the answer is, but Spurs fans are not happy with Thomas Frank, so he is going to have to change something because he doesn't have this unlimited time. But I don't know what the answer is for Spurs, because everything is there, and it's a mystery why they aren't as stable, I suppose, in the results department as other teams that have had perennially been in Europe for 15 years straight.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I find it hard to disagree with anything you say there as a Spurs fan. And for me, I think the problem lies with upstairs. Is something that I've realised more and more over time, particularly if you look at this year. And my thinking behind it is, you're right. Yeah, when we will spend the money, that's great. But just to give you an example, we've sold our top scorer in the previous 3 seasons, and we haven't replaced one of them. It took us a year to replace Kane. We still haven't replaced Son. We let 3 left wingers go in the summer and haven't signed one since. So, naturally, when you're 3 left wingers lighter and, you're playing in more competitions, it's just like, hang on a minute, you're playing more games. It doesn't make sense. And then we sold Johnson. Okay, fine. Was our
I
record?
don't understand Brendan Johnson's sale.
No, it's strange.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think it does either. But if you do it, okay, fine. You bring in the money, and although he was our top scorer last year, but you've got to have a plan, I think, to replace him. Then Mohamed Kudus, just literally typical luck, gets injured, and now we've got no right winger at the club, and we're putting Lucas Bergvall there, who's a central midfielder. So just like, really, so I just think for me it comes from upstairs, because we've done nothing in this window so far. What it is, it's a new look board, so fans have given them another chance, but it's the same owners. It's, nothing's really changed apart from
it's a new look board, but it's the same people by a different name, isn't it? Is it Sam Lewis?
Leave you under the bus. Moved on.
Yeah.
That's it. Hey.
And again, maybe look, again, there's a lot of people pulling money out of Tottenham as a wage. There's a lot, and I mean that by like dividends and so on at the very, very top board level. And that's whereby they don't want to relinquish their power. They need to justify themselves being around there. And it goes back to maybe the structure part again. Like, how many directors of football do you guys have? I know Johan Lang is in there. Paricci or whatever his name was, now he's on his way to Fiorentina. Isn't there somebody else in there as well? I think
you're right. Yeah, we've got
Matrix is very big.
Yeah, no, you're 100%, but we lose them really quickly, which is for me just so concerning. Like Fabio Paratici, by the way, by the end of the window is expected to leave, having been here less than 6 weeks. He's expected to leave and go back to Italy, but to bottom of the league Serie A, and bottom of the league Fiorentina in Serie A, I should say. And I just think, is Tottenham really, perfect behind the scenes? If that's a more attractive prospect, we'd be Italian or homesick or not. I just think, hang on a minute, I don't think the club's in a great place. I just think we don't support the manager. We sack and appoint and rehire very, very quickly. And like the Champions League final we get to, which is great. And like also winning Bilbao, they're both great things. They wouldn't have it any other way. But then fans have this expectation of, boom, we've got to win now. Tottenham's we've got to be high flying in that top four, within 6 months, and we're not. And that's why the pressure's on him. And then he's coming out with all these things about, the club is not a Champions League club. That's what he said last week. That, of course, didn't go down too well. Then he's seen with an Arsenal Cup, which absolutely, of course, was a mistake. But things like that just don't look good. And fans are frustrated because we're playing defensive football and we're losing games. It's just things are building up and just they're not going his way. And with these injuries as well, this week we've got 4 more players out. It's just like it's going from bad to worse. And I'm really
Why
worried
do
as well.
managers? What goes through managers' minds? Like he
Oh.
may be telling the truth that Spurs are probably are not a Champions League club at the moment. Why say it in front of a camera? Like that.
He keeps saying
That
it
to
as
me
well.
boggles my mind.
He keeps saying, we finished 17th last year. We need to realise where we are a long way from where we want to be. And I'm thinking to myself, you're probably right, but you've got to be careful how you come across. Then he's like, you're a fake fan if you boo and that kind of thing. And again, I don't agree with booing during the game, but be careful what you say because, there are quite a few that do boo. So
Yeah,
he just
like
loses
Steven
fans.
Gerrard. Steven Gerrard said, we lost 3-0 to Chelsea, and Steven Gerrard, first line he came out with in his post-match podcast, or his post-match interview afterwards, said, "Oh yeah, sure, Chelsea should be coming to Villa Park every week and wiping the floor with us. We're lucky we kept it at 3-0. We're lucky any game we can keep it at 3-0 or something like that." He said, and like you're going, what are you doing? You're not going to get sacked, or
That's awful.
And then I think he was out. That was in the start of October, end of October, he was gone. So it's I just can't understand managers need. Sometimes I think Unai Emery's biggest weapon is the fact that he plays off the fact his English isn't great when his English is actually perfect. And I think he gives such a kind of a roundabout answer that the interviewer goes, "Oh yeah, fair enough. Move on to the next question," and no one understands
I
the
love his
meaning
press
behind it.
conferences sometimes. Some of the things he says.
He's emotional, but I think sometimes the way that he tries to explain himself, he gets himself out of holes, but he's with his pidgin English at times.
100%. Before we get your thoughts on the game, what one player would you take at Aston Villa from Tottenham and why? So just one, no more. I think I did ask you this before, but the
I think
reason
it's
I'm
Nicky van de
asking
Ven.
again, lots changed in terms of like Spurs have fallen off a cliff and you've done really well. Any gaps in the Villa team you need strength or quality?
It's striker or right wing, and that's where you're struggling.
So true. Yeah,
that's
so
exactly
true.
where you're
Be
struggling.
on your bench. You could bring someone in for a bit of strength and depth on the bench.
I love Pedro Porro. I think Pedro Porro is a really, really good player. If you were to have asked me 10 weeks ago about who I think Aston Villa would look to replace, I probably would have said Matty Cash, but Matty Cash has just been absolutely outstanding for us in this run that we've gone on. So that one kind of nixes that one. I'm actually just looking at your team here now at the moment. Archie Gray is always going to be high for me. I love Archie Gray. I loved him, even though there was a player who played for Leeds before that John McGinn apparently might have murdered on an Australian preseason tour 3 or 4 years ago, according to the Leeds fans. There was people looking for John McGinn to be arrested, I think, at the time for a tackle, and the tackle wasn't even that bad. But it's good to see another fellow with the same name of Archie Gray, who obviously wasn't the person that John McGinn murdered in Australia, that is playing for you guys now. He's a really good player. I'm being facetious with regards to that one, obviously, but so I'm going to narrow it down to I like Dejan Kulusevski as well, but I'm going to say I'm going to say Archie Gray. I'm going to say Archie Gray. Not that we particularly need him, but because we've got a roster of centre halves, we've got a roster of defensive midfielders, and we've got right backs, but he's just too good a player. He's just a very, very good footballer, and he's only 19 years of age, 20 years of age, and the world will be at his feet if he keeps developing the way that he is at the moment. He's just a cracking player. I'm going to say Archie Gray.
Good shout, Neil. Thank you. I did wonder if that answer changed. Yeah, you said Van de Ven, I believe, one we done a few months ago. There we go then. That was good stuff. Thank you very much. I think Van de Ven's been good as well, but that Spurs backline generally Not so much. But again, we don't have the attacking quality or depth. It just puts pressure on your back line. And our fans go, yeah, but we got an awful defence. And I'm saying, look at our front three. Look at the players who've got out. It just puts pressure on the defence. And we're conceding like 3 against Bournemouth. And I'm thinking, right, 2 individual errors, the first 2 goals. Apart from that, we looked defensively good. And it's difficult to say to fans that we're actually doing well defensively when they're looking at it, go, oh, we concede so many. And I'm like, look, 60 minutes, total control of some games. And 4 goals conceded in 4 games, it doesn't sound as good as it did before, where it's just 1 goal in 3 games. So I think we improve defensively, then we go and shit 3 or 4. That's the problem.
But that's the thing, you can only defend for so long. Specifically, if you're a strike force and if your wingers their outball is just so unpredictable. Like how Spurs haven't been able to get Randall Colomwani going. When you guys signed Colomwani, I went, oh, Spurs are able to shout this year, and he's just been a nothing. He's been a nothing entity. And if he goes back to PSG, I would be saying to Unai Emery, pick up the phone. There's your fella that you ring. Then get him on loan. See if you can do anything with him. Yeah. Super, super striker. He's like if he's come to Spurs and went, great to be away for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And, he's not looked like he's been in any way, shape, or form interested.
That's majority on him, but also there's no service. Like Richarlison, is a workhorse. He has to go and chase the ball down, and he's given no service. I know we have no creative players, right? But the most creativity you're going to get is a Pedro Porro ball in the box. And Wani seems to be someone that likes a lot of time. He's not going to be someone that boom goes with his head. He likes to bring it down, take control, and you just don't get that time in the Premier League. So I just don't think he's adjusted. And again, when you come in, at the point he has as well, sometimes it's difficult as well when you come, later in the window. But hey ho, it's been one of those that hasn't worked out yet. But
not yet. Yeah,
we need it to work. We need it to work. Otherwise his loan will be terminated. Simple as that. But Neil, moving on to the game then this weekend, Saturday, I think 5:45 kickoff, TNT Sports. How do you feel about this one? You spoke earlier about you're a little bit worried in terms of how it'll be treated in priority wise, but do you think Villa still, don't give you score prediction, but do you think you can still get the job done?
I don't think Villa are going to win at the weekend. And the reason I don't think is because I think we're going to see anywhere from 5 to 9 changes from our starting 11. I think it's just going to be, and it's not that he doesn't respect Spurs. It's the prioritization of competitions. Unai Emery, week in, week out, says the league is our priority. The league is our priority. And that's always been the case. It always has. He's lost to Stevenage in the FA Cup. We perennially get drawn against Manchester United, which we inevitably lose in the third round of the FA Cup. We're not a good FA Cup team. Every so often, once every 10 years, we get to a final, which is great. We go on these brilliant runs. We get to a final, we lose those, don't win those. But normally we go out in the third round because it's not a competition that's prioritized by Unai Emery and hasn't been prioritized by previous managers, which to me is a bit galling because, as I said before, it's the purest club competition in the world. When you've got things like the Club World Cup, which is an absolute farce the way the clubs are picked to get into it, it's not a pure competition in any way, shape, or form. The fact that you could play against a bunch of tree surgeons from the middle of the Cotswolds in the third round of the FA Cup, and you have the opportunity to get drawn in that is fantastic. And to get drawn against the Premier League club is also fantastic as well. But Unai Emery is going to want to solidify the 4th place in the league or anywhere from top 4 in the league. He's going to want to then have another rattle off the Europa League because he wants to be in the Champions League, yet he wants to go and win the Europa League one more time so that he can essentially probably become his record, and that will probably never be beaten as it is, but he wants to solidify it. So I think if he wants to bring silverware home, he probably sees an easier pathway in one way, in some way, shape, or form with the Europa League because he knows how to win it. The FA Cup is tough to win because you have the whole lot of the Premier League teams, and you've wild cards from down the leagues that could just catch you on any given day. So I think he's going to forego this the weekend. Not forego it. Villa could still win, but I think there's going to be a huge rotation in this game. But I think if you were to give him truth serum, he'd say, I prefer to not have the extra games from the FA Cup so that I could concentrate on the other 2 competitions. Villa fans will absolutely spit at the screen when I say this, but I've been consistent in this. And the only reason I've been consistent in it is that I want to win the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup. I love it as a competition. But you have to be realistic. When you ask the question about how do you think Villa are going to do, Unai Emery does not love it as much as we do in this current season. And that's why I think you're going to see Bizot and goals. Well, Martinez is definitely out anyway. You're going to probably see Malin up top, and you're going to see probably Lamar Bogart come in. You might see Pau Torres back in the team with Victor Lindelof. Going to be probably Matson at left back, maybe Andres Garcia at right back. You're going to see heavy rotation in this game, and that's why I'm not sure, or I don't think Aston Villa are going to win this. I made a prediction on another Spurs podcast right there this morning. 1-1 Aston Villa, and somebody will, or sorry, 1-1 in the game, and somebody will win it on penalties. I think that's the way it could go. I think it could be a boring game.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your honesty, though. Yeah, I think that's much appreciated, and I think Spurs will make changes, but with players out and the way they've been playing, Frank won't want to make wholesale changes because it doesn't look good for him going out 2 defeats in a
No.
week again. It does not pretty. But you're right. I'm surprised, and you might be behind the scenes, of course. So much you do know. You'll know a lot more than me, but even that, some will be behind the scenes. But in terms of like priorities, Unai Emery, as you said there, and I noticed that as well. Always says that the league is the priority. I think you could definitely win the Europa League. If you go all out for that, you've got definitely the manager, you've got the players to do that, and of course it's his competition. He's won it before, hasn't he? That's where you really thrive. I could really thrive, let's just say, but. Of course, I think some of it might come maybe from upstairs. I'm sure Unai Emery does hold the cards, has that power, but we hear from clubs a lot, don't we, about how important the Premier League is. At Tottenham, that's all it's about. They statement when they sacked Ange, although I didn't agree with it at the time. I look back now and I agree with you. I just don't think it's sustainable. I think he talked the big talk, but ultimately didn't always deliver on the pitch, and was a bit kind of like, yeah, everything's perfect, and it wasn't behind the scenes as well. But at the same time, he was gone because the club statement said how finishing 17th is unacceptable. So that for me tells us as fans that the league is more important than winning a trophy. That's how the club views it, and it makes sense if you think about it in terms of revenue and club brand and reputation they try and sell. But do you think, you've hinted it there, that maybe you should, of course you want to be good in all competitions, but if you come down to it, you don't bring in the right bodies in January, or you had to choose one to go all out for and rest players for, would it probably be the Europa League?
Oh, absolutely. The club needs Champions League football. Like last year's last day of the season versus Man United, a historically bad Manchester United team and not being able to win, with Emi Martinez getting sent off in the first half and Morgan Rogers' perfectly legitimate goal being ruled out, and a draw would have gotten us into the Champions League. The potential for that to have absolutely blown apart Aston Villa's future. And I mean this from the point of view of like massive future implications was there. And we didn't get Champions League football. We got Europa League. Unai Emery now getting us into the position to get Champions League football again is huge. If we got in Champions League football last year and now we're in a position to get Champions League football 3 years in a row, we would have then been on a financial foothold, sponsorship, all that kind of stuff. It really elevates your club. It's untold elevation that your club gets from stuff like that. So I think the Europa League is massive because it gives you another avenue into the Champions League. So that's exactly why I think he's going to favor that too. At the end of the day, he just need the club, the balance sheet guys need Champions League football, or else Villa will flitter out. We need it. So the fastest way and the easiest way to Champions League football is all the hierarchy cares about. So the FA Cup ain't getting you that. That's another reason why I don't think it's going to be prioritized.
Okay, Neil, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And to wrap up before we end, now we're over the midpoint, of course, of the season, past Christmas, getting closer already to the end. It goes so quick. In terms of Aston Villa, where do you think then, hand on heart, you'll finish in all 3 competitions?
I think we lose the weekend. I think we go out the weekend.
Okay.
Our very best case scenario, 4th round, we get in the FA Cup. I think 3rd place in the league. I think we can sustain 3rd place. I think we're 6 or 7 points ahead of Liverpool in 4th. We're 11 points ahead of Chelsea in 5th, and we're 12 points ahead of whoever's in Brentford. I think actually in 5th. I think we're 12 points ahead of Chelsea in 6th. So I think like, you don't want to say it until it's mathematically done, but like it would be a catastrophic failure to fall out of the top 5 places right now. But I think 3rd is still doable. Yeah, so I think 3rd in the league, and I want to say we're going to win the Europa League. I really do want to say it. Yeah, I'm going to say we're going to win the Europa League. Why not?
Love it. Neil, thank you very much. And with Tottenham, then, how do you think they'd do in the Champions League, in the Premier League, and also the FA Cup?
The Champions League's a funny one. It's wildly conceivable that Spurs could get to a semi-final in Champions League. Like it just is. Villa got to a quarter-final and nearly beat PSG last year. So it's wildly conceivable that can happen. I think probably round of 16, maybe for Spurs in the Champions League. I think Spurs will finish. I've got a feeling the Spurs will get it together when injuries start to dissipate, but that needs to happen. That needs to happen tomorrow, like yesterday. It's when that needs to happen, because it's all your injury list. It's huge and vast at the moment. Like if Spurs got their striker position sorted out, like Mateus Tells hasn't been it, Koulibaly hasn't been it, Richarlison has hot flashes every now and then. If you got your striker position sorted out, I think Spurs could finish. Like the way the league is so concertinaed at the moment, it's like anything from 7th to 14th is in play for any of those teams in those positions. That's hard to predict there, where Spurs will finish in the league. But I also think the Spurs could have a good cup run. I think Thomas Frank, it could be one of these ones whereby Thomas Frank just has this great cup run and finishes mid-table and gets to the last 16 in Champions League. And that might be what he needs to do to hold on to his job. But that might be what it is to do the solidification, strip it back to the studs in the summer, and then maybe get what he needs done then in the summer going forward. Because as I say, because sacking him now isn't going to help you guys win the league. It isn't going to help, or Champions League. It isn't going to help you guys win to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League, because I just don't think it will happen. It could, but like sticking with that Thomas Frank, and there will be Spurs fans here going, it's very easy for me to say that when I'm not watching you guys every week, and that's absolutely completely understandable. But I think the next 18 games in the league, or next 17 games in the league, and where you ultimately finish in the Champions League positions and in the FA Cup will probably dictate his future. And I think that as long as expectations are that let's say cup final, Champions League round of 16, and finishing maybe in the top 8 in the Premier League, I think that will be a rescuing of the situation from where it is at the moment.
I'd agree with that. If that happened, I think I'd be really happy with that. Neil, thank you. Where can people follow you? Remind them on social media, not only yourself, but also the podcast. Appreciate you giving me your time.
That's all. At Love McGrath on Twitter. You can catch us on YouTube. I think we're the only podcast with Paul McGrath in the name of it. So if you type in Paul McGrath Villa Podcast, you'll find us there somewhere. And anywhere that does podcasts as well. Spotify. I think we were actually made a Spotify partner last month, so that was nice. So if you do if you do fancy following us anywhere, follow us on Spotify, because they made us a partner, I think, recently. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, super stuff. Great stuff. I wish you all the best, your channel, all the best, and Aston Villa for the rest of the season. Thank you again. Great to collaborate with you. For those listening on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're new, listening via audio podcast platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. You can follow me at Harry Scarfe 22 across social media, football content creator and YouTuber, autism advocate. Make sure to follow Neil and his podcast across all the socials as well. But thank you very much. And for now, a massive come on, you Spurs. Came along, just like a song, and bright